What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp. That is what we call a common Bengals W. Orlando Brown Jr. signs with the Cincinnati Bengals in what could be one of their biggest free agent signings ever when all is said and done. Talking to probably about nobody right now. Late at night, it's after midnight. I was on the post AEW stream for my day job when I found out. Exclaimed a hearty "Let's fucking go" because I am very excited about this move. For those of you who are just checking this show out, I am I don't want to say a casual football fan. I am a diehard Bengals fan. I love nothing more than Cincinnati Bengals football, but just wanted an outlet to speak about this because I can't stop thinking about Cincinnati Bengals football. So I started Common Bengals W. Have really enjoyed it. We're going to have Jeff Hawkins on sometime soon as well. He's a noted Bengals fan. Was with me at the first Bengals playoff win in however many years against the Raiders. It was a good time. And some stuff like we're going to get into free agency today. Thank you, Air Spider, for joining in. We don't do super chats, humper chats, any of that stuff we do on Fightful here. Just send in your chats. I'm talking with you guys about football tonight. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear how you feel about the signing. To me, this is such an important signing. You know, everybody was posting the memes, even in my little Bengals group chat. My friend Charles posted the poking him with the stick, like, come on, do something. Then it happened. 4 years, $64 million for Orlando Brown Jr. to be a left tackle to protect Joe Burrow. They left no doubt. Like, hey, getting Alex Kappa, great. Getting Ted Karras, great. Getting Lyle Collins, he was serviceable. Unfortunately, he got hurt. But they left no doubt here. They went and got the guy that's been protecting Patrick Mahomes the last couple of years. Now, I had some people that were trying to minimize the possible impact of this. So I said, hey, he's a 4-time Pro Bowler in his mid-20s, and people are like, Tyler Huntley made the Pro Bowl. Like, come on. If you're going to jump in my Twitter replies and use the most obtuse, out-of-left field example, I get the Pro Bowl ain't what it used to be. But you're going to sit here and tell me a 4-time Pro Bowler that's been protecting Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, mid-20s, 4-time Pro Bowler, is not good. Not even a top 15 paid tackle in the NFL right now. I think he's 17th. So they end up getting a good deal. They front-loaded it too. That way they can spread the money out over the body of the deal. Objectively, an upgrade at that position is Orlando Brown. Now, a lot of people are like, what happens to Jonah Williams? Well, I can tell you what's happened to Jonah Williams an awful lot is, unfortunately, he's been hurt or not been 100%. And that sucks. And, you know, maybe they'll give him a go at right tackle and all that, but he's very expensive. Typically, they have hit pretty well on first, second, third rounders in recent years, but it just wasn't working out. And I don't like to go the maybe it'll work out route when you got Joe Burrow there. And if you watch this show, you know how hard I was on Joe Mixon this year. Joe Mixon, Joe Mixon had better linemen to work with this year and had one of his worst performing years, if not the worst. But it's hard to imagine that he wouldn't have performed exponentially better with a guy like Orlando Brown Jr. Just look at the numbers that are presented there. Like, look at the numbers that can be used to measure. I want to see if I can find this tweet that was sent to me. But Orlando Brown Jr. is such a seismic signing for the Cincinnati Bengals. You've got Joe Burrow, and listen, they knew in the playoffs, in the 2020 to 2021 playoffs, whatever it was, when he got just absolutely manhandled, that they had to fix that line. Had to. John Eisner said, Lyle Collins, 951 snaps played, 8 penalties, 5 sacks, 57.9 PFF grade. Jonah Williams, 1,100 snaps played, 4 penalties, 12 sacks, 61.2 PFF. Orlando Brown Jr., 1,133 snaps, 6 penalties, 4 sacks allowed, 75.8 PFF grade. I think that tells you all you need to know. Their big free agent signing in Lyle Collins, 57.9. Jonah Williams, the guy who should have taken the reins, 61.2. And you got Orlando Brown Jr., who people are trying to convince me is not very good. I'm sorry, I'll listen to experts above you guys. 75.8. This is a huge upgrade. And this is people who tell you that he wasn't that good were not watching Bengals and Chiefs games last year. I was so starved for football. I was watching both of those. And let's be real, I know who the Bengals are facing in the finals it ain't gonna be the Bills there every year. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. It's gonna be the Chiefs. You to get to the Super Bowl, you got to beat the Chiefs. You're very rarely gonna get to the Super Bowl in the AFC without beating the Chiefs in the regular season or the postseason at least once. It's just probably not going to happen. And Patrick Mahomes last year could have scored, snapped the ball, sat down, started a little bonfire, camped out, and waited for the game to end after he scored for the first time. That guy had all the time in the world. Not to mention the fact that he's so much better at eluding sacks than Joe Burrow has. Even though Joe Burrow got a lot better, he's a lot better at that. But I mean, having Orlando Brown Jr. doesn't hurt either. 31 million of the 36 or the 64 is up front. Oh man. Just responding to this message. But it's a big move, and it's one that sort of pacifies the fan base for a little while. Got some people here. Antonio says, who are the Bengals free agents? Well, we can tell you who they lost. First off, let's start with Jesse Bates. We all knew Jesse Bates was leaving. That was going to happen. Jesse Bates, long gone. He was going to be long gone. Not a big surprise. Glad he got that money. He wasn't going to get that money from the Bengals. The Bengals instead gave that same amount. They had drafted who was supposed to be his replacement in Dax Hill. But they gave that money that Bates would have gotten. Now, granted, Bates is elite. I think that Bates ranks higher on the positional chart relative to other NFL players than Orlando Brown Jr. does, but they weren't keeping him. It wasn't working. So you knew he was gone. Hayden Hurst, you knew he kind of wanted to stay, but the realistic situation here is the Bengals were not going to pay Hayden Hurst $7 million each year for 3 years towards his 30s to be behind whatever running back they had, Boyd, Higgins, and Chase. He would have been the 5th offensive option. Weren't going to pay him that. He did great. He showed us the type of tight end that we need, a big, physical, fast one that will break tackles and do things like that. I wish him nothing but luck, especially in Carolina with possibly Andy Dalton serving as a bridge QB. Big shout out to Andy Dalton. I got nothing but love for Andy Dalton making that money, getting an extra 10 mil. People were like, oh, bring him back as the backup. Buddy, he's getting $5 million a year. He ain't coming back as a backup for at least another 3-4 years. And hopefully he does after that, because I think he'd be great. But I'm so happy that the Carolina Bengals are a thing now as well. And also, Listen, Antonio says, my Giants paid Daniel Jones $160 million for 4 years. Hopefully it's worth it. I'm just saying, listen, I'm not saying Andy Dalton's better quarterback than Daniel Jones right now. That'd be crazy. But Andy Dalton threw more touchdowns in fewer games than Daniel Jones did last year. He did. Oh, man. Oh, man. But you knew he was going to go. And I'm so happy to see him doing well. And listen, Jeremy, one of my best friends, Jeremy Lambert, he's now got Hayden Hurst, Andy Dalton, and Von Bell, who I thought the Bengals were going to try to keep. So this one's the one I'm most torn about because we knew Jesse Bates was going. So ideally, what you would like to do is keep the guy, the veteran safety. And now they're going to have to find a veteran safety in free agency. They've got to. You can't have two people as young as they have out there. But Von Bell leaves, goes to the Carolina Bengals, Carolina Panthers. It's wild how that worked. But he was one that I thought we were going to be able to keep instead of Jermaine Pratt. But listen, if you can keep Jermaine Pratt on the deal that you kept him on, ooh, I'll take that all day because he's only getting better. He's only 26 years old. He is another great third round pick from the Cincinnati Bengals. Like they've picked exceptionally well in the third round, like Logan Wilson. That's why if the Bengals end up managing to get comp picks, I don't know how that works. I'm not going to pretend I know how it works, but if they end up getting comp picks out of Von Bell and Jesse Bates, hope it's near the third round because they draft really well there and they end up making very, very good starters there. But keeping Jermaine Pratt is a big one. And plus, he's responsible for that. A moment that I will always share with Jeff Hawkins and my friend Charles. We were there freezing our asses off. The Raiders game, we had to see it. Had to see the Bengals win their first playoff game in 30 years, and Jermaine Pratt saved that game with an interception. I was there when he swatted, was it Snoop Huntley's attempted dunk over the goal line and knocked it to Sam Hubbard. I'll always feel a little something special. And he did what a lot of athletes talk about doing, and a lot of me and you say that we would do, and he did it. He took less money to stay in Cincinnati, to be loyal to a team that gave him an opportunity and to win. And that's something that a lot of us say that we'll do, but if put in those same shoes, probably wouldn't. I got immense respect for him for that. Not something that I expect anybody to do. I wish Hayden Hurst well. I wish Jesse Bates well. I wish all these guys well. Same with Samaje Perine. Samaje heading to Denver. He did his job for us so well over the last few years. Nothing but love for Samaje Perine. He wasn't going to get that amount of money. Right now, they're probably trying to decide what to do with Mixon. Do they keep him? I mean, it seems like every week there's something going on. Doesn't seem to be his fault. Two issues that weren't him, but given his history, it's understandable why people kind of jump at that. But Samaje, his 3 years, even though it's been declining yards per average, he saw a lot more targets, and he wasn't like a big, catching back. He's there to block, but they re-signed Travion Williams. I think that Travion Williams, based on the limited action that we've seen out of him, over 5 yards a carry, and he can block, and he can do some special team stuff. I think he can slide right in there. I think that some of the running back play, at least at the level in which we saw it last year, can be plug and play. With the one outlier specifically being the mixing game. RP says Brown will cancel out the Bates comp pick. Well, that's a bummer, but you know what? I'll take it. RP, do you know, like, I can't imagine that, like, Samaje or Hayden would bring one. Would Von Bell have one? I don't know. I'm asking you. if you know more than me, because you do. This is Pratt's forced fumble and Huntley amazed me pass out in the stadium. It was incredible. Antonio says, what are your thoughts on the Lamar Jackson situation? I think it's BS. If you're Lamar, you can't be surprised that nobody wants to give anybody a guaranteed deal. The Browns are a poverty franchise that are so desperate for a quarterback. They're like, this guy's got allegations. He's got cases. He hasn't played in a year and a half, 2 years. We don't care. That's how desperate the Browns are for a QB. Nobody else in the NFL is that desperate for a QB. Again, the Browns aren't even a poverty franchise. They're a living in squalor. Living in squalor franchise. So you can't compare what he got and say, well, fully guaranteed. You know what? I respect Lamar Jackson for trying. I respect him for trying it and trying to change the way that things are. More power to him. Hope he finds a place outside the AFC North. You think Burrow needs to do better as well to minimize the sacks? Seems like he holds the ball too long. Yeah, absolutely. Last year, the 2021 season, he was way worse about that than the 2022 season. By far. So now one of the biggest question marks to me is what happens at running back. Well, there's all this Jamal Williams talk, and I would love that. But the word is he reached a 3-year, $12 million deal with the Saints. And when I hear that they got him for $4 million a year, I think, well, why didn't the Bengals try then? Like, that's the one I wanted. I wanted Jamal Williams, his 17 touchdowns, because what that shows me is the guy can get into the end zone. 1,000 yards, 4 yards a carry. Wasn't a catching back as much, but he was the one that I wanted. And at $4 million a year, well, that's a big savings over what we got out of Mixon. Antonio says Colts are desperate for a star QB. They are desperate for a star QB, but here's the thing. The Browns have been desperate for a star QB for about 25, 30 years. In that amount of time, the Colts have had Peyton Manning for 15 years and then Andrew Luck. Izzy says finding a superstar running back in the 5th round is pretty common. Yeah, I agree. It is. That's why I'm not that worried. If the position I am least worried about is running back. Whatever Joe Mixon was doing last year wasn't working consistently. Do I think he's hit the wall? Well, maybe. He's 26, 27. I kind of do want to see how he would perform, but not under the deal that he's got right now. It would need to be reworked. But yeah, finding a running back in the late rounds or getting a veteran again, you spend $4 million on somebody else. All right. I wish the Bengals would have done that. If you would say, okay, you can have Jamal Williams, $4 million a year over 3 years, or Joe Mixon for it's just like $10 million, I'll take Jamal Williams. I would definitely take that. RP says, so excited. Can't wait to see Brown out there. And RP says that this helps the right tackle depth too. Yeah, it absolutely does. Zen says, from the UK, live in Japan. Actually a Packers fan. Just want to hear you talk about football. Well, hey, I'm glad that you're here. How's Japan for somebody from the UK? Izzy says, this is an upgrade. Burrow was sacked 9 times in 3 playoff games. Yeah, people that are trying to minimize the impact of this are being obtuse or just don't watch the games. And I watch every second of every Bengals game, then every bit of post-show or national coverage I can get. Every single second of national coverage that existed this year, the Bengals, I consumed. Then I would watch Cincinnati Bengals talk, Locked on Bengals. I would watch, all the stuff I could find from Flemlo where he talked about them. Anything that I could ingest Antonio says, "Oh no, I just meant since Luck left, they've had a new QB every year, and they've had a top defense, so all they need is a QB to carry them. They do. So it's so wild because heading into this offseason, the quarterback situation just looked wild, right? But Brady retired. Rodgers has forced his way to New York. Matt Ryan's cooked. He's done. He's gone. Derek Carr, they already figured out his situation. I honestly I thought the QB thing would play out a lot longer than what it would happen. But you got the New Orleans Saints getting Derek Carr. You got Jimmy G heading. Where's he heading? The Raiders. Yeah, he's heading to the Raiders. And I thought that a lot of this would get even more interesting because you had Brock Purdy emerging, right? You have Brock Purdy emerging, so it goes, okay, well, what happens with Trey Lance? Well, Brock Purdy got hurt, so that sort of just eliminated itself. The Lamar Jackson thing, I thought would have some more legs to it, but I wouldn't say he priced himself out of the market, but he kind of did price himself out of the market. The big one that I've found interesting, as Antonio says, Baker, the successor to Brady in Tampa Bay. I think that Baker did enough to be like, all right, let's give it a crack, right? Well, let's see how it's going to work. He can compete for the job in camp. He did enough to show, maybe he was with a shitty franchise or two. Andy Dalton was such an interesting one to me because look at how his career has been since leaving Cincinnati. He keeps signing to be a backup, right? Now he's signing to be, I don't know what he's signing to be, for a team that just traded away a boatload to get the number 1 pick and supposedly take CJ Stroud, right? Okay, but what happened the last 3 years? He went to Dallas. He was behind Dak Prescott, and he ended up starting 9 games. He started over half the season there. Okay. Then the next year he signs with Chicago. He's behind Justin Fields, and he ends up playing in almost half the games. And not only that, he won 3 games. Well, then what happens? He goes over to New Orleans, 3rd team. Looks like he's going to be behind Jameis Winston. Well, what happens? He ends up starting 14 games, and he won 6 of them. And over the last 3 years, you look at Andy Dalton, and you're like, oh, geez. Well, he's completing like 65% of his passes. He's playing well. He's got 40 TDs to 26 picks. I think that he's earned his opportunity to come in and compete directly in Carolina and help out a CJ Stroud. Izzy says AFC is rough. Mahomes, Burrow, Rodgers, Allen, Herbert, Lawrence just making the playoffs is going to be hell. Yeah, man. I think that Josh Allen might legitimately be the 5th best quarterback in the AFC. And we'll see how Trevor Lawrence does last year. Might make it 6. I don't think he's better than Rodgers. He damn sure ain't better than Burrow or Mahomes. Don't think he's better than Herbert either. And I think that he's good. Oh, Orlando Brown Jr., man. The hell, dude. I wasn't expecting this that late at night. I wasn't. Who was it? Tom Pelissaro that posted that? I want to make sure he gets the credit because for all the preaching I do about crediting and all that in wrestling media, like I want to make sure that we credit the great reporters that are doing incredible free agent news work. Tom Pelissaro. There we go. It says 4-time Pro Bowl tackle and Super Bowl champ Orlando Brown Jr. is finalizing a 4-year, $64 million front-loaded deal with the Bengals that includes an over $31 million signing bonus, the largest ever for an O-lineman. People said, Well, they don't let great players go. Well, yeah, you do, for cap reasons, for all kinds of reasons. But also the Chiefs feel like they have upgraded there and are moving a right tackle to left tackle, are paying him more, by the way, than what we see out of than what we're seeing with Orlando Brown. Man, I'm just so excited about this. This is the type of thing that you want to see out of the Bengals. You want to see them making moves. Antonio says, feel Sean Payton will fix a lot of Russell's problems, hopefully for Will Washington's sake. I'm hoping that that's an outlier for Russell Wilson. It's hard to believe, right, that it's just like that's how he's going to be, especially with that amount of guaranteed money. Speaking of, like, who knows how the Joe Burrow contract's going to go, but that Patrick Mahomes deal looks like a deal, looks like a steal. Old dude's going to be restructuring that along the way. You best believe that. Unless winning's more important to him. But when you've already won 2, you can say, well, I've won, right? The Bengals still got to win. Antonio says, that's the good thing for my Giants. All the top QBs going to the AFC. Doesn't matter how good Jones is as long as we build a great team around him. Yeah, there's still some great pieces out there. Izzy asks if I'm excited for the Reds' upcoming season. As a lifelong Angels fan, I identify with your pain. I'm always excited for the upcoming season, but unfortunately, pretty quickly, the Bengals give me a reason to not be excited about the upcoming, or the Reds give me a reason to not be excited about the upcoming season. There's a lot of really talented young players there. Christian Encarnacio Strand looks great. This is going to be Joey Votto's probably his last year, barring him hitting like 40 home runs or something. Probably going to be his last year. I wanted to go to opening day, but I'll be in LA, so I'll have to wait until next year. It would have been my first one, but I'm excited for the first week or two. And, when they go to 3-21 or whatever, it's just impossible to care at that stage. It's impossible to be optimistic. It's impossible to have love for the team when they went from a playoff team to a close to 500 team. And then you got Nick Castellanos saying, they didn't even call me. Now, hey, maybe not signing him wasn't a bad idea, but call the guy. All right, hey, here's my thing. I'm not even convinced they want to sell tickets. It's almost like a major league thing. They couldn't have paid Aroldis Chapman whatever it is he made for a homecoming, like a few $1,000,000. What about Johnny Cueto? There were a few people that I looked at. What's Johnny Cueto's contract right now? All right, a 1-year club option, $8.5 million guaranteed. 1 year, $8.5 million. You mean to tell me that they couldn't have signed Johnny Cueto, still 37 years old? He's an old son of a bitch for sure. Better than any starting pitcher they have. Maybe not better than the upside that they have, but what a fun night this has been. Common Bengals W. This was a common Bengals W. We're going to have Jeff Hawkins on the show soon. Don't know when. He wanted to wait to not overreact to free agency, but here I am overreacting to free agency. But I'm not overreacting in a negative way. I'm overreacting in a positive way. We knew Bates was gone. Based on the market, it was very likely that either Mixon was gone, P. Ryan was gone, or both were gone. We knew either Von Bell or Pratt were gone. We knew Hayden was gone. We knew the people who were leaving had a very good chance of leaving. Re-signed Jermaine Pratt, who we thought was probably gone, and we got a big free agent in Orlando Brown Jr. Off to a good start. Running back can be addressed in the draft. Tight end might better be served in the draft as to avoid the feeding frenzy that's going on in free agency with some of the pay there. Safety needs to be addressed in free agency. Corner needs to be addressed in free agency. Corona says, is Dawkins a Bengals fan? Or are you going to have him on your show? I would love to have Angelo Dawkins on my show. Would love to. Hopefully soon. Have you been keeping up with your Raptors? Not so much lately, but always got love for the 6. Guys, thank you all so much. We're out.